Is John talking to Christopher Hall, reviewing films. Now, the next film that you're going to be reviewing is called Focus, and the way it was described to me earlier on, Chris, was that it was a kind of romantic comedy. You're saying it's more of a crime drama.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a crime drama than a romantic comedy. There is romance in it, there is comedy, but it's certainly more towards the dramatic side of things. But the story is that one night a seasoned con man called Nicky, played by Will Smith, finds himself being conned rather unsuccessfully by Jess, played by Margot Robbie. He decides, rather than taking her to the police or anything like that, decides to take her under his wing and to teach her the ways of being a con artist.
As most people normally do.
Yeah, it's the typical master-apprentice setup, and due to plot reasons, they split up, but then they are reunited, and Will Smith seems to have still got feelings for her, or does he? Or is it all one big con? Ooh. Or is there intrigue, or double-crossing, or, what's going on? You can never really tell, because it's a crime heist movie, and there's also betrayal, and what's going on? Ooh. Right, I'm going to be honest with you, I did like this movie. On balance, it probably is my favourite movie of the week. It is the first big movie that Will Smith has done since After Earth, which was a disaster from start to finish on every foreseeable level. It is your typical sci-fi movie where they decide, for whatever reason, to have their big lead star be totally emotionless, and the audience get absolutely nothing from it whatsoever. Thankfully, I can say that Will Smith is back to his top form. He's cracking wise. He's doing all the things that you could and kind of expect Will Smith to do, but a little bit older, a little bit more wiser. He plays the mentor role perfectly well and brilliantly. And Margot Robbie is great. I really like her, and I really love the chemistry that the two have with one another. You can believe that these two people are having a relationship with each other. You can believe that these two people could fall in love, or maybe they do fall in love, or maybe they don't. Ooh, it's all conspiracy. Ooh. I think that it is a very fine, very functional crime drama. The thing that I really love about it is that in the early half of the movie, we are introduced to this world of crime, this world of con artists, and it is done in a way which feels very believable and very rational. This movie isn't Ocean's 11. It isn't some grand caper heist movie. They even make a joke about that. Margot Robbie's character says, "So, what's the big heist? What's the big plan?" And Will Smith's character just says, "Well, we're not doing anything like that. What do you expect us to have? The big final heist where we all do these heists and we all go have an early retirement?" There isn't really anything like that until the second half. Now, I'll be honest with you, I really did like the movie up until the midway point, as there's this scene midway through the movie which I would have been perfectly fine had the movie ended there. I won't say too much about it, but it's a scene in the big football stadium. If you do see it, it is very well put together, very well written, very, very, very tense. It's probably the standout moment of the movie. It is fantastic, even though their justification for how it worked is nonsense and almost snake oil seller lying level of nonsense. But apart from that up until that point, up until the midway point, it's perfectly fine, perfectly enjoyable, great, amazing, fantastic, great as a 90-minute movie. Maybe some people would have felt a little bit unfulfilled with it ending there, but, I'd have been perfectly fine. Then we get to the second half, where it does become a crime caper, where it does build up to the big heist, where all the things that were teased and said that this movie wasn't going to be, kind of then it becomes. It ends up becoming Will Smith trying to pull one over this racing mogul, trying to steal his secret formula for race car fuel to sell it on to his rivals for big mega bucks. And whilst that stuff can be interesting and the cinematography in those moments is fantastic, it doesn't really amount to much because we've had the big climax, we've had the really big, interesting scene. And from that point on, from we've had the big, interesting bit, it just becomes terribly run-of-the-mill. Things are set up very, very early on where you just sit there and think, oh, that's become a thing, isn't it? They're going to have to do the big double cross thing, aren't they? Oh, dear. But at the end of the day, it is a perfectly enjoyable movie. It is great to see Will Smith back doing what he does best. He isn't trying to do the silly After Earth, trying to sell his child as being the next big thing when he really, really isn't. They have a great chemistry to one another. There is some really funny comedic moments which add some nice contrast to some of the darker, more tense moments. It is a perfectly fine, perfectly suitable, perfectly sufficient crime drama. It isn't fantastic. It isn't going to set the world on fire. It won't be one of my favourite movies of the year, but bearing in mind that we are in the drought period of movies, bearing in mind there are some utterly terrible movies coming out at the moment, and some terrible movies I have seen, and one of which I'll be reviewing shortly.
Nice.
It is a nice little break. It is nice to have a movie which actually feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like a product. It actually feels as though there's a reason for it to exist, that it's been made because the story is good, because the acting is good, and not because, oh, you know what's really popular at the moment? Frat boy bromance movies. Let's make one of them and get a bunch of people that don't want to be in it. Oh, we'll make millions of dollars, which seems to be the way of things.
Who speaks like that?
A big name Hollywood executive who seems to be from Barnsley.
Very nice. Right, listen now, Will Smith's in the movie, as you mentioned a minute ago. I was just actually wondering, because there's not been that much promotion about this movie. Why is that then? Because Will Smith's a big name, come on.
Well, I'd say that it's a mixture of two things. First of all, whilst it is Will Smith doing the Will Smith thing, being the romantic, the charismatic, the funny guy that we all know and love, it isn't a typical Will Smith movie. It isn't really so focused on him. It isn't him having big car chases or chomping on a cigar and blowing up bad guys. It's not Brad Boys by any stretch or means of the imagination. It's something a little bit more different, a little bit more mature and grown up. And the other side of things is because it's an R-rated movie in America. And like we said previously, if it's got any kind of reference to sex or sexual references of any discernible degree, then the Hollywood censors will make it an R rating. So it's not going to get a wider appeal. Personally, I'd say that it, at absolute most, is a PG-13 in America, which will make it maybe about 12A. Over here, it's 15. So over here, it makes sense being a 15. In America, it being R-rated, I just don't understand. I really don't, because there's nothing about it which is terribly out there. There's nothing about there's none of the violence is quite as graphic as in Chappie. The sexual references aren't quite as strong as in 50 Shades of Grey, so I really don't understand it. I honestly don't. I would... Maybe if with a bit of trimming, maybe if they just CGI'd bedsheets over certain woman anatomy bits, then it would have gone through for a PG-13.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow. Right, listen quickly then. One criticism that the film has had is that there's kind of too many twists and turns. Do you agree?
Well, to a certain degree, yeah. Particularly towards the end of it, it just becomes so confusing. As is the way of things, we're going to have the double cross and the triple cross, and then, oh, that wasn't actually a triple cross, it was actually a double cross, but it was a double cross done backwards, and oh, please, no. It's a movie which, to a certain degree, thinks it's cleverer than it really, really is, which it isn't. It's a crime drama, crime caper movie which can be clever, which does some nice sleight of hand stuff. But when it tries to be big and clever, it's nonsense. Like I said, about midway through, there's this big con, this big thing going on at the football stadium, and their justification for it doesn't exist. You can't suggest someone an answer by showing them a bunch of random numbers. You can't make someone pick something by manipulating their mind. You can't do that. It's a scientific fact that you can't persuade someone's mind quite that way. I know I'm trying to speaking very vaguely about this, but I don't want to give away the twist to it. Because on paper, it's clever, but when you realise, oh, that's not real, you kind of go, oh, dear.
But a movie of the week so far, though.
Yep, so far. Chappie, once again, perfectly fine, perfectly enjoyable, but problem is RoboCop or Short Circuit. There's even a line in Chappie where it echoes back to the Johnny Five is alive thing, where Chappie says, Chappie is real.
Wow. Very nice indeed. Right, listen, you're going to review Unfinished Business after this. This is Mr. Probs and Nothing Really Matters.